Well-established mobile firm Kakao's choice was large internet portal Daum. Why did the two companies meet and what consequences will it bring? A Korean nuclear reactor has been installed at nuclear power plants in the United Arab Emirates. The significance of Korea's first nuclear reactor exports and the future of the country's nuclear energy exports. All the latest broadcasting equipment around the world gathered at KOBA 2014. How advanced are Korea's broadcasting equipment technologies? We can remotely control a car with a smartphone? Let's meet smart cars, new concept vehicles that can liberally network. Aside from Rodong Shinmun, various other newspapers exist in North Korea. Who are making them, with what contents, and how?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Now, Korea's ICT sector is all abuzz with the surprise news that internet portal Daum and mobile messaging service Kakao are about to get into bed with each other. So what is behind this surprise merger? What synergies will each firm bring to the other's table? And above all, what effect might this have on Korea's overall ICT industry landscape?
A web portal giant and mobile messaging service heavyweight in Korea announced their plan of merger, creating a mega giant IT company. Their name, Daum Kakao, is expected to change the landscape of web portal and mobile messaging service business. On May 26th, heads of Daum Communications and Kakao held a joint press conference. They announced to jumpstart growth by bringing together their web contents operations and mobile business under one corporation.
다음 커뮤니케이션과 카카오는 지난 금요일 이사회를 통해서 양사의 합병을 결정하고 합병 계약을 체결했습니다.
Kakao and Daum plans to hold shareholders meeting in August to seek approval of the merger and list on October 1st as Daum Kakao. Market capitalization of the two merged companies total around $3.3 billion. It is the largest value of its kind in IT company merger. The value itself is enough to receive spotlight.
카카오의 강력한 모바일 플랫폼 경쟁력과 다음이 보유한 콘텐츠 경쟁력과 비즈니스 서비스의 노하우, 전문 기술 인력이 결합하면 최상의 시너지 효과를 낼 것이라고 확신합니다.
The market says their decision to merge is a foreseen process. Daum Communications was launched in 1995 and is the country's second largest internet portal after Naver. However, Naver's market share is 75%, while Daum is only 20%, showing a huge gap that it stayed firm. Daum was the first internet portal to jump into mobile business, but hasn't been showing much success. It had lacked growth engine and in a dire need of a breakthrough.
아무래도 그 기존 사업에 있어서의 PC의 그 역량을 모바일로 옮기는 데 한계가 있었습니다. 그래서 계속적으로 마이피플도 하면서 열심히 했었지만 이 모바일로서의 그 역량의 전이가 어렵다 보니까 결국에는 계속 그 부분에서 고전을 했었고, 또 하나는 그 모바일에서 터져주지 않으니까 기존에 그 했었던 그 검색 광고 및 디스플레이 광고, 그러니까 PC 기반의 그 광고에 집중되어 있는 그 매출 구조를 벗어날 수가 없었습니다. 이미 카카오가 보유한 그 관객 기반 서비스가 있기 때문에 단시간 내에 그 모바일에서 역량 강화를 모색할 수가 있습니다.
On the other hand, Kakao launched in 2006 and holds dominant presence in Korea with its mobile messaging service, which began in April 2010. It continued growth through Kakao Story and other mobile social platforms. Kakao Talk boasts of 37 million subscribers, which far exceeds Naver's messaging application Line users. But outside Korea, Kakao Talk hasn't been so lucky and falls back behind Naver's Line. Its money-making structure is concentrated in game, which has been considered a risk. Kakao was in need of content's expansion.
게임 플랫폼으로 이제 카톡이 자리 잡기 시작했고, 그러다 보니까 플랫폼으로서 다른 것들, 뉴스라든지 컨텐츠라든지 이런 부분, 컨텐츠 소싱이라든지 이런 부분에서 아쉬움이 있었던 거죠. 또 부분적으로 사업 시도를 했지만 성공을 하지 못한 케이스도 있었어요. 이제 그러다 보니까 양쪽이 가지고 있는 자원의 결합을 통해서 뭔가 신사업을 일굴 가능성이 있다고 본 거죠.
Through the merger, Korea's mobile messaging service heavyweight Kakao acquires PC-based search engine and media contents, while Daum, forever second-place internet portal by a large margin to Naver, will strengthen its mobile business model by securing loyal 37 million subscribers. Market experts view the merger as a positive step for both companies because they are complementing their weaknesses. However, it is uncertain whether the merger could be a means to strengthen their presence outside of Korea. Both companies haven't shown significant performances overseas so far, and it looks to be difficult to find a breakthrough even after the merger.
두 기업의 공통점 중에 하나는 내수의 비중이 상당히 높다라는 겁니다. 그래서 국내 서비스로 인식이 되어 있기 때문에 하루아침에 이제 해외 서비스로 이렇게 탈바꿈하기는 쉽진 않은 상황입니다. 포털 서비스로서 이제 글로벌하고 가기는 힘들 것 같고요. 카카오가 앞서서 먼저 컨텐츠를 가지고 나아가서 이제 개척을 하면 이제 후방에서 다음이 좀 컨텐츠 소식력으로 해가지고 받쳐주는 역할로 해가지고 해외 시장 공략을 하지 않을까.
Daum Kakao plans to add on webtoons and news content services to Kakao Talk and begin shopping and financial businesses. Views vary on the level of synergy their merger could create, but most agree that Daum Kakao could challenge the internet service market, which had been dominated by Daum's competition.
다음 카카오는 지금 네이버와 다른 모습으로 진화하려고 노력을 많이 해야 되고, 그런 모습을 보고 있는 네이버는 다음 카카오와 다른 모습으로 진화를 해야 되는 과제가 있는 셈이죠. 둘이 서로 같은 시장을 놓고 같은 파일을 놓고 경쟁하는 형태로 진행된다면 이번 합병은 아무런 의미가 없다. 따라서 둘 간의 경쟁은 이제는 서로 어떻게 하면 달라질까? 달라지도록 노력하는 경쟁에서 한국 인터넷 시장에 미래가 있다. 이렇게 얘기할 수 있습니다.
Internet portal legend Daum and unchallenged mobile messaging service operator Kakao. Their merger is expected to change the landscape of Korea's internet market. Now, the market awaits what new changes Daum Kakao can bring.
President Park Geun-hye was recently in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, for the unveiling of a Korean nuclear reactor at the Barakah nuclear power plant. This is the first time a Korean reactor has been installed overseas and is part of Korea's biggest export deal of all time. So how big is the export potential of Korea's nuclear power generation sector? And critically, is it safe? These are some of the questions we have for our guest today. He's a professor of nuclear engineering at the elite Seoul National University. Dr. SUH Kune Yull, thank you for joining us on Bizline.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Now, you've got to really dumb this down. We're not your students, sadly. What exactly is a nuclear reactor and how important a part is it of a nuclear power plant?
A nuclear power plant is home to many components. A nuclear reactor turns out to be at the core and heart of the nuclear power plant. It's just like a boiler. The only difference from the coal-fired engine is that this resorting to nuclear fission reaction, which does not require any matches, any fire, just splitting of the atoms. So that's the only difference. But from then on, it's the same. Boiling water and then turning this turbine and electricity is being generated. The same old story.
Okay, it's the heart, it's the guts of the plant.
Exactly.
Now, who are the members of this Korean consortium which are putting this project together?
Was Korea Electric Power Corporation.
Okay.
And they had also party of construction companies, Samsung as well as Hyundai.
Okay.
And as I recall it, there was Dusan Heavy Industries, as well as the U.S. Westinghouse, as well as Japanese Tush, because they're working together. Okay. So those were the major players in the consortium.
Okay. So which countries did Korea bid against to win this deal back in, I think it was 2009?
There were France as well as Japan. There used to be the United States, but they were basically phased out in the early stage.
Okay.
So as I recall it, France and Korea were having a hard time in convincing the UAE about their products. And
Okay.
it turns out that
Eventually.
Korea had the day.
Korea
Exactly.
won. Okay.
Exactly.
So, I mean, those are very, very big players. Korea was competing against in the industry, established players. This was the first time that Koreans have won a nuclear power export deal.
Right.
What does that tell you about the competencies of Korea's overall nuclear sector?
It was essentially a debut
Yeah.
on the global market. And bad news was that from then on, Korea was being watched by other contenders, especially Japan,
Yeah.
France, the United States, even Russia. So that meant less degree of freedom as far as Korean sales are concerned. So we have to be much better than before if we really are going to survive in this fiercely competitive market.
Are we going to survive this
Yes.
fiercely competitive
Yeah,
market?
that's a must. But thing is that we need to spend some more time in restructuring the whole industry within because of all these kind of mishappenings last year before,
Yeah.
counterfeit, fraudulent, suspect items. That was really the killer in the nuclear industry. We have to
Yeah.
come back from that mishappening.
My understanding is that there are now 4 plants due to be constructed in the UAE through 2020, and the sales figure for this was $20.4 billion. This is an enormous amount of money by any standard. What do you think will be the overall sort of economic impact from the project for South Korea?
It turned out to be the biggest ever.
Yeah.
And the good news is that we still have another equivalent US $20 billion project that's waiting for us because it's not just construction, but they have to be maintaining this, operating this, and then actually decommissioning these plants. And another possibly 20 billion for education, training, manpowering, all this, because it's like a highway business. You build the cars, you need the drivers, and then you need policemen, basically patrolmen, and then junkyards, all this big business. So it means a lot about...
So 40, 60 billion
Probably.
altogether?
That's how I see it.
Okay. Now, I understand that in the region, Iran and Israel do have nuclear facilities. But this is the first commercial nuclear plant among the Gulf states. Does this grant Korean industry some kind of foothold in that region for future projects?
Yes, I would think so, but there's actually one in Bushehr in Iran that's supposed to be a Russian type, but that's something different. But if it comes to the Western style nuclear reactor, this is indeed the first one. That means we have an initiative in this region, but again, not so fast because everybody else is watching this part of the world because this part of the world is so sexy. Everybody's jumping onto this business. So Korea's not alone. So we have to be watching all over those other potential competitors around, and it's about time to get restructured and get ready for round 2.
Okay, let's come back to this issue of competencies.
Right.
You know, Korea's jumped quite late into the nuclear sector, which is true, of course, of most of Korean industry, which has also done very, very well globally. Does Korea have some kind of latecomer's advantage in putting together all the latest technologies in a package?
It's a very good point, Andy, because we were the late starters, which gave us a lot of benefits in terms of getting started from what has already been built. We didn't start from scratch.
Right.
But then again, everybody else was going a little bit further. So it's time for Korea to catch up with those most recent developments in some other countries. And I would not think that we're in a good shape anymore because of all these developing stories and the United States coming back. Everybody else is coming back, except probably Germany and Japan. Everybody else is coming back to nuclear. So that means more, actually ever more competing forces in the global marketplace. So it's no picnic.
Okay, it's no picnic. And, you know, taking that thought a little bit further, of course, there is this enormous question hanging over nuclear right now, which is its safety, particularly in the wake of Fukushima. How did that incident actually affect the global nuclear industry? And as you mentioned, both Germany and Japan are turning away from nuclear, are they not?
Actually, a great question again, because Fukushima, as far as those are concerned, they belong to what they call Generation 2. What we're talking about, like APR 1400 Generation 3, which got tougher, safer, more durable, and
Okay.
producing more power. So that means we're relying on new kinds of safety philosophy, safety culture, things that human beings, because it's really the manpower that's overlooking this plant and see if anything goes wrong. For example, this kind of counterfeit, fraudulent, suspect items are the killers. But Korea was not alone again. The United States suffered, the UK suffered, Germany, France, Japan even suffered. But they did not necessarily disclose this for the interest of national security, but we chose to just say it. So again, on the contrary, Chernobyl has made Russians tougher, and Fukushima should have made Japanese tougher again. So these kinds of incidents should be making Koreans tougher on the global marketplace. So we have to take these into the good sides of the story so that we cannot be just stopping at this moment.
Okay.
There's just too much to be hoped for.
Given the tremendous impact of the Fukushima accident, has this actually impacted the percentage of nuclear that countries are now using in their overall energy mix?
It actually depends upon the country,
Yeah.
which country you're talking about. For example, Germany has essentially decided to phase all their plants out of their picture completely by 2017. In Japan is struggling, but they might be coming back to where they started from, probably back to 50-some plants. But it's again questionable. But other than that, China has apparently come back to their ambitious program of building more and more plants. And we're on the same track, and even the United States. But United States has different, it's both a blessing as well as curse, because in the sense they got shale gas. And they didn't necessarily see too much hope in coming back to this nuclear. So it really depends upon which country you're talking about. If it comes to Korea, we're probably desperate. We're one of those desperate countries to really have to resort to this kind of nuclear power other than anything else.
And this is presumably because you're a net energy importer. There's no local sources, right?
No, not at all. So that in turn really put an imprint on the energy mix. But then again, the percentage got reduced from some 49% down to 29%.
Since Fukushima?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it did give an impact on us, but still we're sort of surviving. We'll see what.
There are various energy sources, various renewable sources. Why is nuclear still such a compelling form of power?
I do see sort of miracles in the renewables, like probably wind power, solar voltaics, but things that they're both of them intermittent. The wind does not necessarily blow all the time.
Sure.
The sun is not shining all the time. So that's the major problem. And we are going to come up with some kind of consistent base load. So we're left with two options, either CO2 producing coal-fired plant or radioactive materials producing nuclear. So it's just a matter of choice again. So it's just we have to put them on the balance, CO2 versus fusion products or radioactive materials.
So pretty much every country now has a mix of these different energies, right?
Exactly.
But of course, we've had 3 Mile Island, we've had Chernobyl, we've had Fukushima, and the Fukushima shadow is still hanging over us.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, as a nuclear engineer, how safe is nuclear power? Are we going to see greater disasters?
There are two sides of the story.
Yeah.
Because if it comes to the matter of statistics, they're talking about probably once in a million years, 10 million years, but that's just a theory game. The reality might be different. It might be, think about 3 Mile Island, 1979, Chernobyl, 1986, and then Fukushima, 4 of them, 2011. Think about them.
That's not
it's
a million
every
years.
6 years.
Yeah.
So that's what the reality is all about. So we have to face it. So we have to be departing from that sort of virtual safety myth. There is no such thing as myth. We have to face the reality. So we have to be making sure that the plants are really going to be okay without any assistance from the operators. So then we have to be coming up with some kind of what they say inherently safe reactors.
Yeah.
So everybody's
does
pitching
that
in there.
technology exist yet? How far are we away from achieving that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that means it should be able to go through at least 3 days, 72 hours without any assistance or
Human
input of
intervention,
electricity. Exactly. So these are the kinds of ideas and differing philosophy as far as safety is concerned. Then we can be saying that nuclear power is on the safer side than the unsafer side.
Yeah. I mean, as a nuclear engineer yourself, what's your personal perspective? How safe do you consider this for the future of not just power generation, the future of the human race, arguably?
The story tells itself. If you take a look at the history, we have had about 6 major instances. That's the current degree of nuclear power plants. To my eyes, they're not safe enough. But if you were talking about our generation, our sons, grandsons, then it has to be really something like probably once in 100 years, probably 1,000 years, covering the whole spectrum of our human civilization. So until that day, I may not be saying that this is good enough. So again, it boils down to a question of how safe is safe enough. It's not safe enough. We have a long way to go.
Okay. So Korea has had success now in this export project, but unfortunately failed to secure a kind of a hoped-for deal with Turkey. Given this, was the UAE deal a one-off, or do you see major potential now for Korea nuclear power generation exports?
I'm not a fortune teller. I can't really tell the truth, the outcome, but the thing is that Koreans were probably celebrating a little too soon, a little too fast. In the meantime, the Japanese were having a hard time restructuring their program and then in better shape, and then they started from better background than us or ours. And in that regard, we've already lost our initiative. And I thought that probably losing the battle in Turkey was a natural outcome of all these happenings during the past 3-4 years.
Who won the Turkey deal
Japan.
eventually? It was Japan.
Yeah. In collaboration with the United States. They got together and then basically made it, but Koreans were alone. And in that kind of business, it's better to get connected.
An alliance.
That was the lesson. We have to be learning this.
One big success in UAE, one unfortunate failure in Turkey. Final question for you. What does government and industry, indeed and other players, consultants, academics like yourself, need to do to further promote and develop the nuclear industry here in Korea?
They have to be starting from scratch, because this kind of structure of national corporation, Korea Electric Power Corporation, maybe they were lucky enough to get awarded, but that's just one time, maybe one-off event. Think about others. All of them private companies, Japanese, the US, French, all of them. Even Russians are privatized. Koreans are alone in not having been privatized. We have to be restarting. Probably private-public partnership is a must in this regard, and we have to do it now rather than later. Without it, we may never have any other orders coming in from abroad.
Okay. Well, there's a sobering thought. But thank you very much indeed, Dr. Sir, for being extremely frank, and thanks for being on Bizline.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay.
Of the numerous photo apps, which one is drawing the most attention this week? The app of the week is Candy Camera, that is catching people's eyes with its detailed photo decoration function. The key to this photo app is to express a person's photo in the best-looking way. You can choose the color most natural to your face, using more than 30 different filters. Another feature is that you can edit various photos into one photo. With a collection of photos, you can make a vivid story like a video clip. You can add charm and fun to dull pictures using stickers and frames divided by different themes. The finished photo can be shared with your friends through SNS directly from the app.
Despite the myriad advances in mobile technology, it's the humble television set which still maintains pride of place in most families' sitting rooms. And what's it delivering? Content that is more clear, more vivid, more in your face than ever before. And this is of course enabled by advances in broadcasting technologies. To see the very latest in these broadcasting technologies, Well, keep watching.
The global media market is growing every day, offering many opportunities to businesses. Some people even comparing it to the goose that lays the golden egg. TV audiences are demanding higher quality pictures, nearing perfection, and broadcasting equipment with advanced technology are being introduced to meet such demands. Let's take a look at broadcast monitor technology of now and the future, working to reproduce real-life color on screen as we would see with the naked eye. COBA 2014 was held at COEX in Seoul, where 800 companies from 33 different countries participated to display their cutting-edge broadcasting technology and equipment. Development of the media industry has led to the growth of broadcasting equipment market in the world, which is expected to grow $55.8 billion in 2018. Ultra-high definition technology, which is 4 times clearer in resolution than current high-definition TV, is assessed to be the next big wave in the global media market, and companies are working to develop related equipment. To realize fine quality picture using top-notch broadcast monitors is essential. Amid fierce competition among broadcast equipment makers, a Korean small and medium-sized company is competing head-to-head with global companies with its advanced top-notch technology.
The quality, absolutely, Korean quality is the best. So in higher monitor we use better panels, Korean panel.
Broadcast monitors are needed in all areas of production processes, in cameras, video editing, and monitoring. So what is the difference between regular monitors?
일반 가정에서 보는 화면은 방송을 하기 위해서 주파수, 전파에 실어서 보내게 되는데요. 그 전파의 대역에 한계가 있기 때문에 압축을 해서 보내게 됩니다. 그러다 보니까 압축하면서 약간의 화질 손실이 좀 있습니다. 그런데 방송국 내에서 편집이나 제작할 때는 화질 손실을 없게 하기 위해서 압축하지 않은 있는 그대로의 데이터를 전송하기 때문에 화질에 있어서 일반 TV 모니터보다 더 우수하다고 말씀드릴 수 있겠습니다.
Recently, production of small, full HD monitors used as a viewfinder monitor in cameras and outside broadcast vans began, allowing monitoring of vivid images from the moment they are captured on camera.
이제 패널 기술이 점점 좋아짐으로써 실제에 있는 해상도를 그대로 표시할 수 있는 5인치와 저희가 9인치대 모니터를 개발했고요. 5인치대 모니터로서는 저희가 세계 최초로 지금 개발해서 미국의 방송 전시회인 NAB부터 저희가 판매를 시작했고요.
Monitors used in broadcast production have to reproduce accurate and clear colors to display high-definition video. And for accurate color reproduction, color calibration technology has to be of the highest standard.
가장 기본적이 되는 게 화이트 밸런스입니다. 즉 LCD 모니터를 열 때는 다량의 모니터를 옆으로 쫙 펼쳐놨을 때, 그리고 화이트 패턴을 집어넣었을 때 사람 눈에 인식이 되는 그 화이트 폼이 전부 같아야 되는데, 실질적으로 찍어보고 색조표를 찍어보고 하게 되면은 그게 다 다릅니다. 그런 색조표가 틀리기 때문에 일단 그거를 화이트를 균일하게 맞추는 거를 기본으로 하고요. 전 세계에서 공용된 컬러 색조표의 그 기준에 의해서 그 색을 표현하는 방식을 적용을 해야 되는데요. 그 모든 색을 정확히 표현해서 우리 자체적으로 갖고 있는 그 FPGA, 그쪽에 안에 있는 그 알고리즘을 집어넣어 갖고 카메라에 들어오는 영상 신호를 그대로 표현할 수 있게끔 지금 설계를 하고 있습니다.
The core function of broadcast monitors is reproduction of the black color as it would appear in reality. LCD monitors in wide use currently show limitations in displaying black detail. To overcome such limitations, a broadcast OLED monitor was developed. OLED monitors can reproduce black with accuracy through high contrast. Its speed of response is fast, and there is no afterimage, allowing for clear resolution.
편집자가 이제 주로 밤에 가장 색을 정확하게 위해서 조명을 거의 끈 상태에서 LCD만 보고 지금 하거든요. 근데 이제 블랙이 휘도가 좀 순수하지가 못한 경우에는 그 야광 블랙인데도 계속 빛이 새어 나옵니다.
OLED는 그 하나하나의 소자가 발광을 하기 때문에 블랙을 나타낼 때에는 아예 빛을 내지 않음으로써 진짜 말 그대로의 블랙이 나타납니다.
Furthermore, rising popularity of UHD broadcasting has led to the development of ultra-high resolution broadcast monitors that has 4,096 pixels. This allows recreation of more than 1 billion colors and a grayscale that shows brightness with accuracy. However, higher resolution means more data to be processed, which also requires a higher standard of technology.
UHD로 가면서 실제로 처리해야 될 데이터량이 8배로 늘었기 때문에 그러한 초고속 시그널 프로세싱을 하기 위한 기술들이 많이 필요하게 됐고요. 그 부분에 있어서 속도가 8배로 된 거를 처리하다 보면은 다른 이제 뭐 노이즈나 이런 부분에 있어서의 해결을 해야 되는 부분들이 있는데 그러한 비디오 프로세싱 기술을 이제 초고속으로 저희가 확보를 했습니다. 지금 SMPT 규격상 옵티칼이나 아니면은 한 선으로 할 수 있는 12기가 SDI를 지금 표준화를 추진하고 있고요. 앞으로 이 기술은 지금 초기에 계속 발전하고 있기 때문에 더 좋은 방식들이 나오리라고 생각하고 있습니다.
The global broadcast monitor market is estimated to be around $400 million. With the coming of the age of UHD broadcasting, the market is expected to expand even further, and Korea is expected to be at the center with its advanced technology.
You've heard of smartphones, but have you heard of smart cars? If you haven't, the future may be accelerating towards you faster than you may think, because cars today are so heavily embedded with ICT that smartphones are starting to replace dashboards as the key control interface between you and your vehicle.
When the user gives a voice command to Galaxy Gear on the wrist, the car carries out the command.
Take me to Alex.
With only a simple voice command, the address book stored on the smartphone is sent to the car navigation. Then, the navigation immediately guides the way to the place the user wants to go. With the combination of car brands and the information and communications technology industry, a full-scale competition in the smart car market began. In the era of smart cars, smartphones will replace car keys. We can control cars with just smartphones that we carry all the time. By running a smartphone app, the user starts the car and controls the sunroof. Through the app, the user can see the car's mileage, operating records, and maintenance conditions at a glance. The app even lets the user know the time to replace car supplies.
자동차 자체에 이상이 있으면 자동차 스스로 충전을 하거나 또는 자동차 운행 후 후열 기능을 제공하는 등 새로운 서비스가 제공되고 있습니다.
Notably, cars are connected to smartphones using unlimited broadband communications networks, rather than being connected to Bluetooth as in the past. The connection distance is unlimited. The secret is this palm-sized module. By installing this module, any car can connect to a communications network like a smartphone.
모듈이 이제 자동차의 OBD 단자와 연결이 되고요. 그 차량 관리 모듈에 통신 모뎀이 부착됩니다. 자동차의 OBD 단자에서 나오는 자동차의 상태 정보를 분석을 해서 자동차에 이상 유무가 있으면 그런 부분을 그 신호를 M2M 모뎀을 통해서 3G 모뎀을 통해서 스마트폰으로 전달을 하게 됩니다.
After connecting the smartphone to the car and running Connected Drive app, the user can use all the functions of the smartphone through the built-in display in the car. Moreover, with its voice recognition technology, the car reads news to the user like a secretary or turns the driver's voice into texts and sends them in an email or a text message. Rather than just being connected to mobile devices, cars equipped with mobile operating systems such as Apple cars and Android cars are being mass-produced amid alliances between global automakers and information and communications technology industry. The smart car market is forecast to steadily rise each year to $274 billion in the year 2017. Competitions in smart car technologies are fierce as they are seen as the information and communications industry's next generation target. Automakers' ultimate goal is to develop driverless cars that allows minimal human intervention when driving, while drivers enjoy various contents. High-tech driver assistance system technology that allows minimal driver intervention is already being commercialized. In the vehicle driving test ground in Hwaseong, Gyeonggi-do Province, Hyundai Motors' new car model is test driving. The smart cruise control function allows the vehicle to maintain the selected speed once the driver sets a certain speed. The adaptive cruise control function, which is a more advanced function, controls the car's speed by recognizing the distance between your car and the car ahead with the radars installed in front of your car. Your car stops automatically and switches on the brake lights when the car ahead stops. If you just press the switch when the car ahead starts, your car starts to run again at the originally selected speed without operating the accelerator or brake.
앞 차량이 멈추고 나서 일정 시간이 지나면 운전자가 스위치를 조작하거나 엑셀 페달을 밟아야 출발을 하는데 지금 스위치 조작으로 출발한 상태입니다. 네, 다시 앞차 제동으로 지금 자차도 제동하고 있는 상태입니다.
레이더 센서가 이제 앞에 이제 전방에 이제 차량이라든가 물체들을 다 스캐닝을 하게 되고 그 물체가 잡히게 되면 그 물체의 방향과 내가 운전자가 주행하고자 하는 방향의 합치가 되면 이거를 내가 추종을 해야 되는 차량으로 인식을 하게 되고 그리고 이 차량과의 그 속도를 계산을 해서 내가 이 차량과의 충돌을 하지 않는 안전한 거리를 제어기 ECU가 계산을 해가지고 그 엔진이나 브레이크 쪽에다가 안전거리를 확보할 수 있게 명령을 주고 있으면 지능형 자동차의 가장 기반이 되는 기술입니다.
When the car detects a possible collision with the car ahead or other dangerous situations, the car's active seat belt system will automatically tighten the belt to protect the driver.
굉장히 위험 상황이라 충돌 직전의 상황이라면 강하게 구속하고 그 다음에 조금 급선회라든지 그런 상황에서 사람이 쏠림 현상이었을 때는 좀 약하게 당하고 그 다음에 그 충돌 상황이나 위험 상황에 따라서 그 시트벨트 당기는 그 압력이나 세기나 좀 달라지게 그렇게 구동이 설계되어 있습니다.
Even highly experienced drivers are afraid of driving cars at night. Technologies that can reduce fears over nighttime driving are being introduced one by one. On top of securing views for drivers by automatically controlling the directions and strength of headlights in line with situations in front of the car, the technology also prevents glariness for the car drivers in the opposite side.
카메라가 전방에 있는 차량의 위치를 확인을 하게 되고요. 그 확인한 정보를 통해서 램프가 차량이 있는 부분의 빔을 국부적으로 가리기 위해서 왼쪽에 있는 램프와 오른쪽에 있는 램프가 각기 다른 이런 형태의 대칭성의 빔을 가지게 됩니다. 그 차량이 있는 위치만 빔을 국부적으로 가려주기 때문에 전방 운전자의 눈부심도 막아주고 또 자차 운전자의 시인성은 그대로 유지시킬 수 있는 그러한 기능입니다.
An intelligent black box that sounds an alarm when the car deviates from the lane was also unveiled for the safety of drivers. When the black box detects a dangerous situation after analyzing the images filmed, an alarm goes off.
앞차를 저희가 인식을 해가지고 그 앞차와 내가 지금 속도로 갈 경우에 언제쯤 충돌이 일어날까를 계산합니다. 그래서 현재 속도로 갔을 경우에 1초나 2초 정도 후에 충돌할 것 같다. 그렇게 되면은 이제 알람을 알려주게 되죠.
The automaker's ultimate goal in competing for smart car technologies is to develop unmanned cars that drive on their own without driver intervention. Numerous technologies which are close to autonomous driving are already being applied to mass production of cars. This car autonomously drives the track without human intervention. It analyzes all the information needed for an optimal driving from precise GPS, digital mapping, image information, and various sensors. The smart car that understands what you say and on its own drives and parks. It won't be long until vehicles that can drive on their own instead of drivers are mass-produced rather than just assisting and entertaining drivers. With the combination of car brands and the communications industries, competitions to develop smart car technologies are getting fierce. And such competitions will only get fiercer amid automakers and IT companies' efforts to lead the smart car market.
The Nodong Shinmun, the newspaper published by the Workers' Party of North Korea, is well known worldwide, albeit less for the quality of its journalism and more for the virulence of its editorial rants. But the Nodong is not the only newspaper in North Korea. There are others. So, what are these newspapers? Who produces them? And above all, what kind of stories do they run?
North Korea's official mouthpiece, Rodong Shinmun, this month reported news about the collapse of an apartment under construction in Pyongyang. This article grabbed the world's attention not only because it is a fatal accident, but also because negative reports on local issues are rarely seen on the North Korean newspaper.
제가 북계에 있을 때 한 20년 정도 기자, 방송 기자, 작가를 했는데 전 기간 이런 사건, 사고 소식을 한 번도 한 적이 없습니다. 긍정적인 걸, 좋은 걸 많이 선전해서 사람들이 좋은 걸 따라 배우게 하는 것으로서 이 부정적인 것이 자연적으로 없어지게 하라. 이런 김일성의 교수가 있었어요. 그 다음부터는 아무리 별난 그 일이 있어도 다 보도하지 않는 게 근본 원칙을 했습니다.
Along with other media, North Korea's newspaper is a mere propaganda tool to uphold the personality cult of the Kim family and maintain the regime.
북한 신문에서 가장 중요하게 다루는 기사는 최고 지도자의 현지 지도, 또 현지에 나가서 지도한 내용들을 다루는 주로 말씀, 현지 교시의 내용들이 가장 중요하게 일면을 장식하는 게 보통입니다. 그리고 때때로 제기되는 주요한 정세에 대한 당의 입장을 전달하는 논설이라든가 사설 등이 일면을 장식하는 경우가 있습니다.
Despite the repetition of contents, there are more than 20 different newspapers in North Korea, including the 60-year-old Rodong Shinmun, which is the official newspaper of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party.
대외적으로 또는 대내적으로 당의 정책과 노선을 펼치는 어떤 측면에서는 가장 중요한 어떤 수단이 될 수 있고요. 두 번째는 다른 모든 매체, 다른 모든 언론의 선도적 역할을 하고 있습니다.
Rodong Shinmun is made up of 6 pages and issued daily. It carries mostly editorials on the leader's messages, party policies, and instructs people on correct thinking in efforts to consolidate the party organization and the country's monolithic ideological system.
세상 소식 오직 접할 수 있는 건 노동신문밖에 없는 거예요. 오면이 남조선면이라고 남조선 소식 실는 거, 6면이 국지부라고 국제 소식 실는 그런 게 있기야 있죠. 근데 사람들이 기본 국내 소식이야 다 뻔하고 거기서 거기니까 기본 5면하고 6면 보려고 노동신문을 많이 보죠.
Rodong Shinmun is also considered the official mouthpiece of the reclusive totalitarian government to the outside world.
2010년 전후로 해서 북한에서는 언론, 특히 신문의 대외 선전 또는 외교적 기능에 대해서 강조를 하고 있습니다. 이렇게 강조한 이유는 1990년대 이후로 북한이 대외적으로 상당 부분 고립돼 있고 핵실험이라든가 미사일 발사라든가 다양한 정세를 외부에 전달하고 자신의 입장과 견해를 밝히는 어떤 소통의 창고로 언론 매체를 적극적으로 수단화한다는 측면에서 의미가 있다고 볼 수 있습니다.
Other major dailies circulating across the country include Minju Joseon, the publication of the cabinet, and a newspaper published by the Kim Il-sung Socialist Youth League Central Committee. The country also issues local papers that represent each province, and a number of newspapers targeting different audiences, including the Pyongyang Times, which is published in English for foreigners in North Korea.
노동신문을 제외한 나머지 신문은 매일 발행되는 게 아니고 주간에 세부 내지 내부 이렇게 정도로 발행되니까 거의 뭐 노동신문 뭐 판박이나 같은 맥락으로 보시면 되는 거예요.
Only a few select individuals, such as high-ranking party and military officials, are privileged to read a newspaper at home delivered by a mailman. The rest of the citizens generally read newspapers in a group at either school or workplace, which is mandatory.
독보야 거기 일상생활이지. 그러나 노동자, 농민들, 사무원들 아침에 뭐 회사나 공장 이렇게 출근하면 집체적으로 모여서 신문 독보라는 거예요. 그 뭐 한 15분에서 한 20분 정도 하는데 뭐 6명까지는 다 읽을 시간이 모자라니까 제일 앞면에 나온 무슨 뭐 장군님께서 뭐 현지 지도하신 소식이라든가 무슨 이런 거나 읽어주지 그다음 구디 소식은 뭐 알려주는 건 없어요.
North Korean newspapers are under the direct control of the Propaganda and Agitation Department of the party's Central Committee.
기사가 한번 나갔다면 우선 결제 체제를 3단계를 밟습니다. 부장, 부국장, 부위원장 3단계 결제를 받는데 이 3번 그 검열을 받고도 또 빠져나가는 게 있어요. 잘못된 게 있어요. 이게 나면 또 검열이 또 내부 검열이 있고 국가 검열이 있고 검열만 2차례 있고 그다음에 여기가 3단계 이렇게 하다 보면 여기서 많은 게 걸러집니다.
North Korea remained one of the worst media repressive countries in the world last year, ranking last out of 197 countries researched in the report released early this month by Freedom House, an American independent watchdog organization for the world's freedom of expression. But with growing infiltration of capitalist culture into the Hermit Kingdom after the economic difficulties, the regime's propaganda through newspapers seems to be less effective than before.
2000년대 지나서 보면 사람들이 신문에 대해서 흥미를 가지잖아요. 화장실 뭐 휴지를 쓰는 집은 좀 괜찮은 집이고 그걸 이렇게 그 집안 인테리어 할 때 벽지 그 밑바탕 종이로 바른다거나 그다음에 남자분들 같은 경우는 되게 많이 담배 종이 말아 피우는 담배 종이를 전합니다. 실제로 장만항에서 그렇게 팔고요.
The North Korean regime needs to realize that the days of hiding outside communications through strict governance of its newspapers and media are gone.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us again next week because global automakers, which have customarily faced a rough riding career, are now increasingly rolling out their new models right here. What's going on? Join us next week. We have the answer. But that's all for now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.